Good morning. This week's Torah portion speaks about the designs of a man who was obsessed with cursing those whom he hated. Bilam hated the children of Israel. Why did he hate the children of Israel? Because they were successful. And why were they successful? Because they merited God's blessings. So, well, they inherited God's blessings through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They didn't merit it themselves. It's not true. They had to merit it on their own level. In order to be redeemed, in order to leave Egypt, it wasn't enough for God to send Moshe Rabbeinu. They had to deserve to be redeemed. They had to believe enough, not just to circumcise themselves, to offer the idol of Egypt, the icon of Egypt, publicly, and not be afraid. But they had to actually, in their own mind's eye, believe that they were deserving of redemption. And they accepted the responsibility of the Torah that God was going to reveal to Moses for themselves and for all posterity, for all generations. In other words, this was a choice that God made based upon merit, not based upon fairness. This wasn't about fairness, that they had been slaves and it wasn't fair. Fairness doesn't always cut it in the eyes of God. You say, well, that's not fair. Why isn't God fair? There are elements within God that demands fairness. And there are elements within God, or within God's persona, that relates to excellence, to merit. When it comes to your place in Olam Haba, in the world to come, when it comes to your reward from God, it's not based upon fairness, it's based upon merit. Life, the sanctity of life, the need to provide the basic, for the basic needs of all, that's based upon fairness, nothing else. When a person attains wealth, it's not based upon fairness. It's based upon either God has chosen that person for success, or the person has worked for that success, and actually is a combination of both. Because this world is based upon merit, and fairness is what we practice in order to make sure that people have their basic needs. We are obligated to provide the poor with their basic needs, but we don't have to make them rich. Viata mechuyev lahashiro. You're not obligated to make him wealthy. You make sure that he has a house, a roof over his head, the food to eat, clothing to wear. But he doesn't have to have gold chains, and he doesn't have to have a limousine. And you may say, but that's not fair. Fairness goes for the basics. That people are given life and the opportunity to succeed and to raise themselves up. Anything less would diminish the humanity of the individual. If you are handed everything, you don't appreciate it. And therefore, it's just bread of shame. There is nothing special about it. When a person works hard to attain what they need, and the person feels good about it. When you succeed and you graduate, and you succeed and land a job, you succeed and excel at your job, you succeed and build a family and have a home, and a wonderful home, you feel justified, vindicated, because you've put effort into this. When things are handed to you, you don't feel good about it. So fairness is not helpful to people just to be given what somebody else worked for. So now the counter argument is, but we worked for it. We built the country. Most of the country was built after the Civil War. And just because there were terrible events that took place prior to that, you cannot right the evils of the past. The Indians, the Native Americans killed each other. And then the white man killed and took over for the Native Americans. You can't right those wrongs. That is part of the history of mankind. What you can do is you can give people from now on equal rights and equal access. And you can't compensate for the past, nor should you. Look, groups of people came from Asia. They were part of cultures where they had been abused. They had no opportunities. Came to this country and had opportunities. They're in the top of the economic classes. Opportunities allow for people to grow. Cannot say that opportunities are not fair. They are fair. It's just that you have to be willing to expend the energy necessary to achieve. At any rate, Bilam was a person who was immersed in this doctrine of fairness, except for himself. Those who espouse fairness, those who espouse socialism, want to have socialism for everyone with them on top. Just notice, who's going to run the program? Who's going to run the community? Who's going to have greater access to the resources? Have you ever read Animal Farm? You know what happened with the pigs. The pigs who ran Animal Farm said all animals are equal, and some are more equal than others. And that's what happened with every society, with every country that has had socialism. There's no such thing as complete fairness. You just go ahead and replace one group of pigs for another. That's what happens. And those pigs didn't earn it. And so socialism, which is based on fairness, never worked, created its own ruling class, created its own pigs that never deserved what they took, and then fought for controlling the controls. The worst perpetrators of human murder in the 20th century and the 21st century were the ones who were socialists. Mao Zedong and Joseph Stalin were the greatest murderers in history. And what did they propagate? Fairness, equality, ownership for the work. Everyone was a comrade, except no one was really a comrade. There was only one leader, and he had everything for himself and his cronies. And this is what happens when you have those who espouse fairness. They want to confiscate what belongs to someone else, but they can't say that they want to do that. So they go ahead and say, well, I'm battling for you. I'm doing this all for you. That's what Korach said. I'm doing this all for you. And he convinced the people of Israel that he was battling against that which was unfair. The position of Moses and Aaron was based upon merit. And they were humble, but they were meritorious, Moses and Aaron. Korach was arrogant, and he wasn't meritorious. He was smart. He had everything. He was charismatic and rich, and he wanted to be richer and more powerful. And that's what it breaks down to. It comes down to those who espouse fairness are not really for fairness. They're there to promote themselves. Those who follow them like sheep at their own peril. The Torah is based upon merit, and the fairness is that we have to see to it that people shall have what they need for the basics. And that's a moral obligation, not an obligation that's forced upon people. And you know what? Those people who aren't forced give charity of their own volition, 10 and 20% of their income, and sometimes more, 40, 50, 60. I know people who gave 60, 70% of their income to charity because they realized they had to help those less fortunate than themselves. But they did so out of their conviction. And they were successful because they were meritorious, because they worked harder. They achieved greater goals, greater skills, greater abilities, greater success by risking, by engaging in risks. Those people who risked, those people who achieved, were rewarded for their activities. That's what's called merit. And there is merit, and merit is also internal. The ultimate merit is not how much money you have. The ultimate merit is how many good deeds you've done in your lifetime. And that brings you greater reward. And you can't say it's not fair, because it's fair. That's what they have achieved. Those who sit by and say, love me because I am, that's what they're going to get, and that's all they're going to get. They may merit the world to come, or they may not, depending upon the way God works this world. Clearly, this world is a world based upon merit. And that's why Bilam was such a despicable character. He hated the children of Israel who had merit in the eyes of God because they deserved it, not because of fairness. He espoused fairness only for his own self-advancement. He says, I'm doing it all for you, therefore pay me for my curse. I will curse them. Those no-goodniks take things for themselves because they deserve it, because they've worked for it. And if you think that this has parallels in today's day and age, well, you're right. Unfortunately, we live at a time when people are looking at others who are successful and they hate them. And since you have a president of this country who is successful in every place that he's turned, they hate him. They hate him and call him all kinds of names, but it's mostly based upon jealousy. But he said such terrible things out of context, taken out of context, something said out of context. Certainly his programs have not reflected any kind of bigotry and hatred. His programs have expressed concern for Americans and American workers regardless of race or religion. He has been consistent on that, and that's why you're going to see consistently more and more people liking what he does, because he truly believes that America can become great again through their merit, through working hard, through achieving, through going further and further, to taking risks. And that creates a healthy country. And the country then becomes a fair country because they care for those who are the weakest. But remember, ultimately, this is not about fairness. This is about personal responsibility and merit. When you wake up in the morning and you do nothing, that's what you deserve. A person must work and achieve and do things both for themselves and for the society at large and for God. And when you have the proper mix, then you have merit. And that's the difference between Moses and Bilam. Moses said we have to care for all, even while we strive for excellence, for merit, and achieve success. And Bilam, he says, everybody should be equal. but I am more equal than others. You choose who you want to follow. You want to follow Bernie, who wants to be more equal among equals, or follow those who tell you you have unlimited chances for success. In this country, the wealthiest people in the country, in the world, are people who did not have it beforehand. They came from, some people came from wealth. Bezos, I don't think, came from wealth. But clearly they've become wealthier than the wealthiest people who were there the generation before. Because when you have opportunity, opportunity allows for people to have merit and to achieve. And that's what Moses is all about. Not like Bilam, who would be labeled progressive, to be more equal than others.